The art market's peculiar logic. This is Blackbird Rook, writing a weekly essay on contemporary art and the culture around it. Following a request from a collector, I found a painting by a well-known artist for £120,000. I then found a very similar painting by the same artist, available for £90,000. Then checking recent auctions, I saw other pieces had been changing hands for around £30,000. All three prices were real. None of them were errors, and none of them, strictly speaking, were wrong. This isn't a scandal or a cautionary tale. It's simply how the art market operates. It reflects what the prices are actually measuring. Not value in any stable or objective sense, but context, leverage, urgency, confidence, and who is standing behind the number. When I taught professional practice at art schools, one question students always asked was not about exhibitions or critics or institutions, but money. How should I price my work? There is a disarmingly simple answer. Take the dimensions of the painting in centimeters, add them together, and multiply the result by a factor. A painting 1 meter by 1 meter is 100 plus 100, 200. Then, if you're a graduating student, multiply by a factor of 10. You arrive at £2,000. That's your gallery price. If you're represented, expect roughly half of that as your share. The factor shifts as the career develops. An MA graduate might work at 12 or 15. After a few credible group shows, you edge upwards. A serious solo exhibition nudges you towards 20. Beyond that, I start to feel uneasy. Factor 20 always seems to produce sensible prices. When artists move to 40, 50, 100, it's rarely because the work itself has changed. It's because attention has. At that point, the market is doing the talking, not the paintings. And when attention moves on, as it almost always does, those prices don't deflate. They hang around and they become a problem. The art world is full of artists whose prices no longer match their position, their output, or their audience. Not because they failed, but because they rose too fast. To understand why this happens, you need to grasp a basic distinction that explains most apparent absurdities in the art market. There are two markets, and they behave very differently. The primary market is where work sells for the first time, usually through a gallery. Prices here reflect an artist's trajectory rather than demand alone. Exhibitions, institutional interest, collection placements. This is where careers are built slowly, or not built at all. This is where the factor system works, however loosely. The secondary market is where individual works are resold, privately or more visibly at auction. This is where speculation enters, where scarcity influences, where prices can jump dramatically, untethered from the logic that produced them in the first place. And here's the absurdity that unsettles most newcomers. An artist might sell new work in a gallery for £10,000, but everyone involved knows that the same painting would fetch £40,000 if it appeared at auction the next day, sometimes more. Why then doesn't the gallery simply raise the price? Because the best galleries aren't pricing for tomorrow, they're pricing for 10 or 20 years from now. Raising primary prices to match speculative secondary demand might look sensible in the short term, but it usually damages an artist's long-term prospects. Overinflated prices narrow the pool of collectors. They make museums hesitant. They create expectations the work may not be able to sustain once attention shifts. So instead, serious galleries do something that looks strange from the outside. They ration access. This is where the demands begin. Demands that can sound extraordinary if you're not used to them. A gallery might insist that a work can't be resold for 5 years except through them, or that a collector buys 2 pieces and donates 1 to a museum, or that a sought-after painting is only available if another work, by a less established artist in the gallery program, is purchased alongside it. When I first encountered these conditions, I found them embarrassing to explain to the collectors I was working with. They sounded controlling and high-handed, but once you understand the pressure involved, the logic becomes clearer. If a gallery is selling a painting for £10,000, that the secondary market would happily absorb at £40,000, it has to decide who gets access. That decision is no longer just about money. It's about placement, about who will live with the work rather than flip it, about whether the artist's career is being supported or quietly undermined. Seen that way, the behavior is not especially cynical. It's conservative in the literal sense. It's an attempt to conserve a future. I've never believed in making hay while the sun shines. In the art world, the sun usually shines briefly. When it passes, and it always does, artists want to keep working, exhibiting, and selling for decades. Prices that run ahead of reality make that difficult. Which brings me back to the £120,000 painting. The artist in question was exceptionally visible a couple of years ago. Their studio prices still reflect what galleries and auction houses were achieving during that moment of intense attention. A colleague offered the work at £120,000, direct from the studio. And it was a collector looking to sell who was asking £90,000. On paper, that was a discount, but the problem became obvious when you looked at recent auction results. Over the past year, multiple examples had failed to sell, or sold for closer to £30,000. There's plenty of the work around. The urgency is gone. The market has moved on. The collector I was advising chose to wait. Something else will appear at auction eventually, something closer to what the work is worth now, not what it was worth when everyone was looking. When collectors I work with do need to sell, usually because of short-term financial pressure rather than opportunism, we avoid auctions. We decide on a realistic price and ask the artist how they'd prefer to proceed. So far, that has meant working first with the representing gallery. They know the interested collectors, they understand the context. And if they're doing their job properly, they should have the artist's long-term interests at heart. Handled carefully, this allows collectors to resolve practical problems without poisoning relationships or distorting markets. It frees up funds to support younger artists. It keeps faith with the ecosystem that made the work possible in the first place. None of this works with bad actors. There are galleries who inflate prices carelessly, who encourage speculation, who disappear when things turn. They're not hard to spot if you pay attention. Be wary of anyone who seems to benefit, regardless of outcome. The art market's peculiar logic. £10,000 paintings apparently worth £40,000, £120,000 works trading at £30,000. It isn't madness. It's a system pricing not just objects, but moments, trajectories, and belief. The factor system gives you a starting point. The split between primary and secondary markets tells you where pressure is coming from, and the demands galleries make reveal who is thinking beyond the next sale. Most of what looks irrational is surprisingly deliberate once you know what you're seeing.